23 years of age, first attempt, and All India rank 15. We have Ria Dabi here with us. Welcome, Ria, and many congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much for calling me here. I'm really honored.
Please introduce yourself to the viewers of Vision IAS.
My name is Ria Dabi. I have secured the 15th rank in UPSC exam 2020 and I'm 23 years old. I live in Delhi. I've done my college and graduation from Delhi as well, and my optional in the exam was political science and international relations.
Okay, so Ria, let's start from the beginning. So the first question and the obvious question is why civil services? We all have been following and we all have heard about your sister Teena Dabi. She was the UPSC topper. So how has been her journey influenced? How has her journey influenced you? And how much of it was already in plan? You know, how much of it was already there even before that happened?
Well, it was always my mother's dream that both of us should give the civil services exam, because it is a very prestigious profession where you can serve the nation and its people as well. And so I think right from the school times it was in my plan that I should also give this exam. And after my sister got selected and even topped the exam, so my motivation just got stronger, and I realized that I have to surely give this exam and I need to crack it.
And you did, and that also so wonderfully with such a good rank, I should say, just called a 2-digit rank, so you are there. You spoke about your mother, so she took a voluntary retirement. So how much of that you think is a part of this planning? What role do you think your mother has in this whole grooming, because for UPSC preparation, because you both have reached there, you know? So tell us about your mother.
I think my mother has a very big role, or even the biggest role we might say, in both of our successes, me and my sister. She took voluntary retirement just to look after me and my sister after our studies in school and college. And right from the start, she always focused on, reading the newspaper, reading different books, so that you can improve your vocabulary, visiting different museums also to improve your knowledge. And she also created a very supportive environment at home, and she did not burden us with any responsibility or household work. So we had the time and the patience to give our best in the studies and at the academic front. So I think she is my biggest inspiration, and I think she is the one who is behind my success.
That's actually so well put. And yes, definitely, on this stage there's just one person, but there's a very elaborate support system for every person, and of course mothers have that special place. So you said that this is something you planned early on. So I believe your optional is political science, and that's also your graduation. So was it a plan of, was that also a part of that strategy that, okay, the graduation should be something which could be used as an optional, or was it the other way around?
I think it was part of the plan, because my mother always encouraged us to take humanities even in class 11th and 12th in the schools, because humanities subjects are a part of the GS syllabus that we see in the exam. And my sister had a very great interest in political science even in schools, so she opted it for, in her college as well for graduation. But my mother had given me the choice that you can take any other subject also, for example history or be it psychology. But I don't know, I think the love for political science runs in our family, I think. So even I was more interested in political science, so I pursued it.
So do you think that made general studies also easier for you? Like a lot of people, you know, do their graduation in engineering or any kind of other field, maybe science or commerce or anything. So do you think this gives you an advantage that, you know, you have that plan and then in your graduation and or you said that 11th, 12th also, right? You're studying the same subjects. So do you think it was easier for you when you actually started preparing?
Yes, I think it was a lot easier for us because we could take the same as an optional subject as well, and most of my college material which I had used was also used for the preparation of my optional, and many of the topics are also very similar. And I think taking political science also helps in the GS preparation because some subjects such as polity and governance, international relations, you can also prepare them and you have an idea of them already beforehand. So I think it helps a lot.
And when you're studying them in school, obviously you're not that burdened for the exam, you know, it's just like a regular curriculum,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So Riya, were you a topper in your school days also at school, college? How was your academic profile in the school and college? Tell us about that.
In the class 12th boards, I had topped in my school, and in my college also I had topped in political science.
So you're used to this, no? You're used to this limelight, okay, always a topper. So that's actually good. Okay, so let's now talk specifically about the exam, right?
Yes.
We have 3 stages of the exam: prelims, mains, and your interview or personality test. So you completed your graduation in 2019 and 2020 mein you wrote the exam, right? So tell us how your actual preparation started and how were you managing your prelims and mains? I mean, how apart were they or how synchronized that preparation was, prelims versus mains?
I had started my proper preparation right after my graduation, and I think the preparation for prelims and mains, it goes hand in hand because the books that you refer to, you read them for both prelims and mains. The only thing that you have to do is segregate the topics which are just prelim specific and which are just main specific. And I used to refer to the previous year question papers to see that what is actually asked in prelims and what is asked in the mains. And I think whatever books I was reading, I was focusing on both the prelims and mains, and made the notes for it respectively, and I had given the many mock papers for it as well.
Okay, so for prelims, if I ask you, so you said mock papers, how many mock papers did you give? And also, like now, as we are, you know, coming across to aspirants who will be preparing or might be, you know, somewhere midway. So what is your recommendation? We want to know that also. Ki, how many mocks should one be writing, right? And for prelims specifically, is there any portion out of that syllabus which you think needs special emphasis, or any book or anything which you like to talk about?
I think for prelims I had solved more than 80 mock papers because I think prelims is becoming more and more difficult every year. So I thought, you know, more you practice, more the better your performance will be. And I think maybe minimum of 50 question papers if you solve before prelims, I think it will be good for you. And I think one portion of the syllabus which is very important, I think, is current affairs, because current affairs appears more and more in the prelims exam, and people they find it difficult that which source should we study for current affairs. But I would say for that there's no replacement for the newspapers, and I think newspaper reading is very, very important.
Okay, so first of all, I'm still in awe of you saying 80 mock papers. So that's like, okay, wow. So, you know, we just see an interview or just listen to a success story thinking ki, okay, you know, topper hai, itne marks hai. But then nobody knows, you know, your journey, and you are, you know, sitting here in all your charming self, smiling. I can't even imagine, you know, how much of patience is needed to go through that 80 tests. So that's very impressive. So
thank you so much.
Now that I've said that, I can come to your newspaper part. So which newspaper were you reading?
I was reading the Hindu and the Indian Express both daily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, daily you were reading.
Yeah.
And how much time was that taking you?
Approximately 1.5 hours, sometimes 1 hour.
Okay, for both,
For
right?
both
So you got
newspapers.
used to reading both, and you
Yes.
were reading them from Way
from
earlier.
college times.
From college
Yeah,
time you
daily.
started, so
Yeah.
you kind
it
of got
became a habit for me.
okay, okay, okay. So that's also something very vital you've told us, that there's no replacement for that, right? But you can obviously add it with other things like maybe current affairs magazine or anything like that, right? Okay. Uh, what about this aspect that, like you gave 80 tests, so you put on a lot of time. So usually in my classes, I always tell students that you're supposed to go and analyze also after you've given a test. And the problem with most of the students come back with is that they take a lot of time in analysis. They've given the paper and then that processing takes a lot of time. So what is your take on that? That if you've given a paper, so what should the analysis include and how much time or what aspects would you like to consider there?
I think the analysis part is really crucial, because if you do not analyze, then you won't be able to improve your performance as such. So after I used to give any mock paper, what I used to do was that I used to see, acha, these questions I marked wrong, or this question I didn't know at all. So I used to look at the answer key, and I used to read the explanation as well, and whatever I found important, I used to note it down in my notebook, and then I used to revise those parts also regularly. Because if we do not analyze the question paper, it is time consuming, it is really time consuming, but if we do not analyze it, I think it will be more harmful to you.
Okay, so Ria, 80 mock tests. I have to ask you, how did it help for the actual exam? That process of, going through in terms of time management, in terms of the kind of pressure you felt. So how do you think that those mocks helped you in that real exam on the final day?
I think the number of mocks that you give, it really helps in the real exam as well, because even if you give the mock at home, so you give it in a prescribed time frame, so it helps for the real exam. And when you're giving the mocks, you set in your mind the minimum number of questions that you need to attend, so that you get the adequate number of marks to qualify for the prelims. So for example, I had decided that I should attempt at least 65 to 70 questions in the real exam. So I think as many mocks you give, you evaluate your performance, you rectify your mistakes, so it really helps for the real exam.
Yeah, and when you have a strategy in place, so you will also feel less pressure.
Yes.
Because you know what is expected from you and what you are supposed to do. Okay, so you said 70 questions. So how much did you actually attempt on in prelims?
I think I had attempted 71 or 72 questions.
Okay. Yeah. And we don't have the prelim score as of now,
no,
right?
yet,
Right?
yeah.
We don't have the prelim score, but we know that the cutoff was around 92 in general category. So I think, yes, with your accuracy, so if you were giving 70 questions, how many were correct, like in your mocks?
I'm unable to remember
Okay.
the exact,
Yeah.
but I think I used to score maybe in the range of 95 to 110 in the mock papers.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the range which we actually
Yeah.
looking for, and I guess mocks are sometimes a little harder also than the actual exam, so you get through. Okay, so after prelims, let's talk about mains. So how much time is necessary for a core mains preparation? How much duration do you think? And because you said that yes, most of your preparation is integrated, but when we talk about some portions like ethics or world history which are not a part of your prelim syllabus, so how much dedicated time is needed for that, for the mains preparation? And also essay. I would like you to talk a bit about essay also.
Like I prepared everything within 1 year, and I was covering the syllabus gradually daily. I was focusing on both prelims as well as mains,
Okay.
for example world history, ethics and
Yeah.
essay. So I think that if you set a timetable for yourself that I have to focus on this part of the syllabus on this day, or have to complete it within this week, I think you can do it. And as for the mains, I think answer writing was very important. So answer writing practice, I used to do it maybe 3 times in a week. So I think that also helped in the mains. And if we talk about the essay paper, so I looked at the previous year question papers, that which are the frequent topics which emerge. And I used to make notes for the common topics, for example, be it women or something on democracy, globalization, something related to digital India. So these things, reoccur again and again. And I wrote down the information which really helped me in the essay also. And apart from that, for the essay, I had already prepared a structure for the answer. For example, there should be the introduction should be really remarkable. For example, with a quotation or an anecdote or something. Then you can talk about the history, the background. Then what are the positive, negative sides. And I think in the essay paper you need to cover as many dimensions as you can, because it can get you extra marks. So I think I touched upon the political aspect, the economic, social, even the ethical as well as the international. And you can talk about the Indian perspective also. And another thing is that when you are ending the essay, it should be on a positive note, because sometimes people get too, they start to write too many criticisms, or maybe it is a negative point of view. I think that should not happen. It should be really balanced. So that can really help in the essay paper.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's something which we say for all your mains answer also, that you have to end on a balanced note, right? You don't want any kind of bias to be reflected from your papers, or of course, like you use the word criticism, you cannot be very critical. You have to come up with a solution also, right? Ethics may also, I want to talk about it. So you scored well, right? 120 around something, right? In ethics. So ethics is always tricky, because it's, do you believe in this idea that, okay, you have ethics or you don't have ethics? Is it like that? Or can you like prepare? And if you can prepare, what is the preparation idea, and where do you go for ethics?
I think having ethics, having some of your own values, or which you've learned from your family, it also helps in the paper as well, because I think some of the incidents which I wrote as examples in the answers, it was from my own experience, so that helped in the paper. And for ethics, I would suggest that you should make your own notes, especially for the values, for the philosophies, for the thinkers, because you can write those in the paper in the real exam. And I think the use of examples should be abundant in the ethics paper, because that gives the idea to the examiner that you are well connected to the reality, what is going on in society. And I refer to many online sites also to get such examples. For example, we have the Better India website, where we have the real case studies, the real life examples. So I used those in my answers. And for the case studies, I think practice is the key. If you practice as many case studies, mock papers, previous year question papers, then you get an idea how to structure your answer, how to give the proper solutions for any incident. So I think practice is important.
Yeah, so I think I take away two things from it, which I really think the students will find very helpful. One is that examples, right? As many examples as you can give, the more personal examples you have, it will be easier for you to remember, right? That's one thing. And the second thing is, for case study, yes, the structure is very important, because it is something, the term ethical dilemma is there, and that dilemma is actually there in all of those questions. You don't have like one perfect answer. So you need to learn to put it, right? For that, practice, right? Practice of case studies, and of course a lot of examples is something which you need for your ethics paper. Okay, so let's talk about the mock test for mains. So how many mock tests did you write, and what was the strategy before writing the mock test? Like if you're supposed to write a test in say 4 days, so were you like revising the whole portion, or how were you going about it?
I think combining both the GS papers as well as the optional, I had given I think 30 to 40 mock papers for the mains. And whenever there was a test, so I used to revise the entire portion which was coming in the test, and I even tried to practice some answers also before that, maybe 1 or 2, and I think that was my strategy.
Okay. So between optional and GS, when it comes to the mains preparation, so what is the division of time there in terms of time management? Earlier, before your preparation, before you wrote the prelims, and after you wrote the prelims also, how was that balance being made between general studies and the optional portion?
Because I had political science as my graduation subject also. So studying political science as an optional, it took a little less time for me, because it was really similar, and I had some idea about it. So I used to devote much more time to general studies. But I would say for those aspirants who do not have such a optional which they have read earlier, I think both should be balanced equally, and they can divide the number of hours equally for both GS as well as for optional.
Okay, okay. And any particular paper out of these 4 papers, right? GS 1, 2, 3, 4, which you found most difficult, I should say, or which needed, you thought that which needed more attention from you?
I think ethics was the one paper which I found difficult because the case studies, they're becoming very trickier day by day, and it was I think a relatively new concept for everyone because nobody has studied ethics as such in their life. So it was a little difficult, but I believed in practicing as much as possible.
Yeah, and you did finally, and you did well. So okay, so after the mains exam, so we have the interview or the personality test. So what is the strategy for that preparation? Because that also again comes with a lot of subjectivity. You don't know what to expect, and you don't know what the reaction is also going to be, or how you're going to be marked. So what is the preparation strategy for that?
For the interview, I had focused a lot on my TAF because I think majority of the questions come from your TAF. So about my hobby, about where I'm living, such as Delhi, about my school and college education and the information given in that. And I'd also focused on the current affairs as well for the events that were happening in Delhi at that time, in India, and also in the world because international relations is my optional. And apart from that, I had also prepared some of the basic questions that are asked in the interview. For example, why did you choose to give this exam? Why do you want to be a civil servant? Why did you take this optional? And so on.
Yeah.
And I think another important thing was that on the day of my interview, I had read the newspaper that morning, and I think it was really fortunate for me because question was asked right from the newspaper headlines that day.
Oh, okay. So probably you and the interviewer were reading the same newspaper that day. Worked out for you. Was your interview on the expected lines? Sometimes it's, they give something very off track and you feel like, hey, okay, this was not what I was thinking. Or do you think you were prepared for whatever happened that day?
I think I was relatively prepared for it, but of course there are some tricky questions that come in your way. Since I do not have any professional experience, so they try to give me more of practical questions maybe to test me. So they gave me this one question that if you're the chief minister of a backward state, so what would be your priorities in order to resolve the problems? So such questions were also asked, but I was relatively prepared for it. But of course suddenly it comes to you, so you're under pressure as well. But I think it went fine.
Okay. And did you take any mocks? Mock interviews for that?
Yeah, I had taken certain mocks because I think mocks, they boost your performance, they boost your confidence, and you get an idea of what kind of questions can be asked to you. You get a different perspective. So I think mocks were also important.
Okay, and how many mocks did you give, and again, how many would you recommend?
I had taken 5 mock interviews,
Okay.
and I would suggest you can take 3 to 5, whatever is convenient for the people.
Just to prepare you with
Yeah.
that whole drill. A lot of people have this idea that you are tested for your knowledge in your mains, and this is just the test of your personality, right? It's they're just checking how much confidence you have. So how much role do you think does that have, the role of confidence in actually going and giving an interview?
I think it is a combination of both your knowledge as well as the confidence, because I have seen certain people who they may not be very good in conversational skills, but they have the required knowledge for it.
Yeah.
So they have also scored very good marks. But I think confidence also plays the key, because if you sometimes don't know the answer, if you're very honest about it, or even if you try to attempt to give the answer to it, so confidence will also gain you certain marks.
Yes, so that you can always say that you don't know something when you don't know, right? For that you need confidence, of course. Okay, so moving on from this interview part also, we spoke about the newspaper earlier also. One point I missed, which I want to take up here is, do you think there is a need for making any notes from the newspaper, and were you doing any of that?
I was making notes from the newspaper regularly because I have had this habit right from childhood that I need to write I need to read the material which is written in my own handwriting, because otherwise I'm not able to learn it properly. And I think the syllabus is so vast for this exam, so you need to revise everything, you need to remember it very thoroughly. So I used to make notes for the newspaper. And what I used to do was that I used to cut out the important articles that came. I used to stick it in my notebook, and I used to note down the important points. And after that, I used to research more on that topic, what can be asked in the exam. I used to think what kind of questions can be asked, and I used to write that information as well. And then I used to revise those notes regularly.
Okay, so you are picking out things, you're writing down also, and you're collecting articles, right? Both the things you're doing. Now tell me this thing that sometimes there are issues which are coming in continuation, right? Like there is an issue which might go on for months. So how do those notes work there? So how are you like integrating it? And a lot of students find this problem that they collect articles but they feel that we cannot go back and read them. So how frequently do you think one needs to go back to them so that that can be read? And how do you like compile it? So over a year this would otherwise pile up, right? So how does that work?
I think for those events which may continue for a while, I used to leave a certain leave a certain number of blank pages for that topic, so that I can fill up the information later as well. And because the information piles up after 1 year, and that happened in my case also. So we cannot learn and revise all the things. I do not think it's possible. So we need to revise the important things, and we need to mark what is important, what can be asked in the exam. And I think that knowledge comes from referring to the previous year question papers as well as solving the mock papers. You get an idea that this year this topic is important, but this may not be asked. So I think that will help.
So I guess this can actually be very useful for all the subjects, for everything that you're reading, that if you have a base of the syllabus, and the combination of the syllabus and the previous year's questions, right, then what needs your attention, right? Then you can compartmentalize, and then you can reduce that pile and then just pick out what is important, and as you said, then keep revising that, right? Okay. What about making notes from other basic books or any book? Like you said that you remember things better when they are in your handwriting. So does that also work for standard books for you, and maybe NCERTs which you would have read?
Yes, even for the NCERTs such as for history, geography, I used to make notes also, because I think NCERTs, they build your foundation, but you need a certain next level of knowledge as well for this exam, because sometimes things are asked very much in detail, and that may not be covered in the NCERTs. So I used to write out the important points from the NCERTs, and then I used to refer to other books or from the internet, and then I used to compile them.
Okay, so you had your own compiled notes for almost everything, right? Okay, then tell me that how is the role of a coaching or any kind of guidance or mentorship in this whole preparation? I feel, considering the fact that you have availability of resources, but just getting through all of that, sometimes we feel that we might need help. So how do you feel about that?
I think coaching helps you a lot, because the teachers that are present there, they have an experience of many years. They know what is asked in this exam. They know what kind of students come. So they can, they can send you in the right direction. They can give you guidance. So I think coaching helps you a lot. And the teachers also give you many notes and handouts as well. And I think apart from that, a big role was played by my sister as well, because she has cleared the exam, she has given it. So she also used to guide me about certain things, that these books are important, you can do this, you can join that. So that also helped.
Yeah, I guess she has been guiding so many other aspirants also. We've seen so many of her discussions, and of course she had to do it for her sister. And yes, any form of guidance you can get from anybody, somebody who's cleared, or maybe professional coaching or whatever, that should make it easy. That's obviously you need to do the hard work, but yeah, that can be the push which you need. What about the many resources which are available online? Right now we have mushrooming of so many websites and portals. So students find it very challenging and very confusing also, right? Like I have seen people who read the newspaper and then they'll watch a video on that newspaper, and then there are sources giving you content, and everything seems important, particularly for people like you who are in their first attempt. So how much did you use these online sources, and what's your take on it?
I think I believe in limiting your resources as much as possible, because if you refer to too many resources, you get confused at the end. So I used to stick to my basic books such as the NCRTs, and if I had to research a little more, so I think I refer to the online government websites which are there, because they give pretty much accurate information that you need, such as PIB. And if some students require, they can even visit the website of the coaching institutes. They also give good information. But I think other than that, you should not waste your time much,
Yeah.
browsing through the internet, looking at various videos. I think you can utilize that time in revising your NCRTs only.
Okay, so that's actually smart that you're writing a government exam, so visit a government website, right? Because we know that the credibility of that information is there, and if you can quote something from there, that will obviously give you an extra boost. So that's one smart thing, and yes, you don't need to go around many sources, be selective, do less, and repeat, right? Even if it's just the NCRT, do that again. Okay, that's actually wise, and that is actually one thing which I think all aspirants need to learn also, because time is ultimately the
Crucial thing,
yeah, the most crucial thing which you need to uh, keep in mind. Okay, so of course you've been preparing, and obviously took on to be the major part of your life, but what else does Ria do? That's what we want to know. That if Ria wants to de-stress, I saw some of your paintings, right, that you paint, and tell us a little bit about that, and what else do you like to do?
Well, whenever I was under stress, I just wanted to relax during my preparation. I used to paint. I'm very fond of Indian folk paintings, so I do a lot of Saura and Madhubani paintings, and many of them are hanging at my home also.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I also like to read books. It has been a habit of mine since childhood. So I like to read fiction books, mostly written by Agatha Christie. I really like her detective novels.
Okay.
And I also used to work out regularly, because I think physical fitness is also really important, and it helps you to remove your stress and refresh your mind. So I think that was also one thing that I did.
So actually that's like you are the complete balanced person in that sense, no? Ria is doing physical activity, Ria is reading books, and you are painting, and that also, being drawn to something. So I think you were born to be in civil services, because you're already doing Madhubani painting. That's actually something very important. A lot of times, when we have a big goal set up, so we kind of feel the need to, leave everything else. But that cannot really give you the best result, because you need things to be on a holistic platform, right? So how pressurized or stressed, like you've told us about your stress management activities which you did, so how pressurized did you feel throughout this whole preparation, or how, because you always had this thing in mind, so how much of that was overpowering you, or how did you feel about it, in particularly the stress of getting or becoming an IS officer?
I think every candidate feels a little bit of stress and pressure as well. And I think for me, there was an additional pressure from outsiders as well, because they always pointed out that okay, your sister has stopped the exam. So, but fortunately, my parents and my sister, they always supported me right from the start, and they said, just do your best, do your hard work, and we'll see what the result holds. Do not worry about that. So I think that also helped me a lot.
Okay, so what was your internal motivation, right? You have a tremendous support system, but when Ria is trying to calm herself up, or when she's trying to tell her, okay, no, I have to give my 79th mock test. So what's your personal motivation there?
I think my personal motivation was that I have performed well in my school and college, and I am a decent student. So if I work hard enough, maybe I can clear this exam. So I just thought that I should believe in my hard work, and I should just not lose hope. I should just keep going on.
Okay, so yeah, actually I feel because of this tremendous journey, all amount of support and help will only work if you have that in you. And yes, because of your credentials, because of the fact that you've done things well before, so you feel yes, I can do it. I think this I can do it is most important, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going to drive you. So what's the biggest learning or biggest takeaway from this preparation, right? they say that UPSC preparation is something which it's always going to stay with you, right? So what's your takeaway from this whole journey?
I think my takeaway is that I think it is a really incredible journey. It is filled with both challenges as well as enjoyable moments, and I think all the things that I've studied, it will always stay with me. And I would only like to say that you should never compare yourself to anyone, because each candidate's journey is very unique. So I think you should just never lose hope and just believe in your hard work. Yeah.
So I really like you said this, that everybody's journey is unique, right? The whole idea of listening to somebody, and like all our aspirants are listening to you, is that they have to understand your journey, your process, and they have to see how this can be incorporated for them, right? It cannot be an exact replica, but of course it can be an inspiration, and without that sense of replicating, it has to be like more of an inspiration which people can learn from you now. So now that you're a civil servant, what is the bucket list? So what does Riya think she should be doing, and as a civil servant or otherwise in life, what do you look up to from here? This is done.
I think I would really like to, focus on my training really well, because I need to get an idea of how administration really works and what I can do to make it better and how I can serve the people. So I think I really need to focus on the training part, and I think women empowerment has always been my priority, and I would like to be it my priority even in the future. Because I think participation of women should increase in various fields, whether it is in health or education or services, agriculture, because I think women can really change the future of this nation. So I think I would like to focus on that.
Yeah, and I think if we have women like you, and especially young women like you, so I think the future will definitely be very, very bright, and India has a lot to look forward to if we have civil servants like you starting so early on and having that kind of passion. So yes, I think we see some bright light there. Riya, we will conclude this by you talking to our aspirants. What is your message? What is the advice, or what is your I should say words of wisdom which you want to pass on as you're passing the baton on to the next line of aspirants? So what would you like to tell them?
I would like to tell all the aspirants that you should set your own timetable and targets for yourself according to your personality, and have a consistency, maintain consistency, so that you can cover the syllabus gradually. And I think you need to revise a lot, you need to practice a lot, and apart from that, just never lose hope and never quit. And if I can do it, I think others can also do it. So just keep going on, and all my best wishes to all the aspirants.
Thank you so much, Riya. I'm sure people are thrilled meeting you and listening to you, and yes, I'm sure there will be a lot of people who will be inspired and would be putting in that hard work to get there, get where you are. It has been such a delight and an honor for me personally to have met you. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All the best. We hope to read a lot of great news items about you when you become a civil servant with all your great work. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.